Are you still letting people in, Veronica?
I've let everyone in that's come in so far. We have 17 participants, including myself, and I just got it to go live to Facebook. I mean, to YouTube.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order then at 1:30. Can you verify there's a quorum, Veronica?
Today is a full membership meeting, so I'll be calling first board member names, and then I'll be calling representative of the various member organizations as well. When I call your name, please let us know that you are here. Please make sure that your phone is unmuted so that we can make sure to hear you. Okay, here we go. Rosanna Ibarra.
Present.
Lisa Judd. Lisa Judd from CDC is not present. Jackie Williams.
Here.
Susan Wynn Novotny. Wind, are you here? Okay, no wind. Keith Driver in place for Grace Peeler, St. Wicks. Oh, Sue Wynn just came in, as did Grace. I'm admitting them now. We are currently doing roll call. Wind, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Excellent.
He was,
Okay, I'm gonna correct that. Is anyone from McCavan, Grace or Keith?
I'm here.
Hi, Grace.
Hi, guys.
Carla Harris.
Here.
Karen Lovato.
Here.
Amanda Archer.
Here.
Judy Albert.
Here.
Dan McIntyre.
Here.
Captain Sean Kaiser. Sean, are you with us? I'm not seeing you on the list, so going on. Rachel McDavid from Ukiah Senior Center. Are you with us, Rachel? Sandra Stolfi.
I'm here.
And QB Anthony.
even though it's really pronounced Anthony though.
Oh, okay. You're here. Hi, Q. Okay. We have 11 board members, so we have a quorum of the board. Moving on to general members, Blythe Post.
Here.
Camille Schrader or Sage Wolf.
Hey, Naomi, Judy. I was just wondering, are you going to?
I know Sage is on.
Sage is here. Camille's supposed to join us.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna count RCS as here. Luz Martinez.
She will be here any moment. If you could call her again. Just
Yeah. Yeah, and if she joins after we move on, if you could just call our attention to that, although I'll see it, never mind. Okay, we'll come back to her. That's a new member that we have. City of Fort Bragg, Sarah McCormick. Anyone from City of Fort Bragg? Nope. Okay. Jonathan Plank of the EDD Workforce Services said he could not attend. Xenia Livacho.
Here.
Veronica Wilson or Megan Van Zant, we don't count. I don't know why it's on there. Sorry, but we're here. Michelle Shaw of Plowshares. Okay. No, Michelle. Denise Gorney, State Council of Developmental Disabilities. Moving on, John Del Castillo of Veteran Resource Center of America. Okay, seeing none, moving forward. Donald Damp, individual member. Moving forward, Diane Durham, individual member. Seeing none, moving forward, we have 14 general members total represented. We need a minimum of 14 present for a quorum. Quorum is present.
Thank you. Okay, just as a reminder, everybody too, we cannot use the general chat feature on here. So I don't know if Veronica's turned it off or not, but please refrain from using it because it is a public meeting.
I disabled it.
Thank you. And Veronica, just want to confirm there was no public comment, correct?
Correct. Due to the way COVID is affecting everything and the way that our phone system was delayed based upon YouTube, we recruited advanced solicitation for public comment in the form both at the top of the agenda, in the press release that was issued by HHSA, and on both websites as well. I had no response for public comment.
Okay, thank you.
And I am currently admitting Camille Schrader and Captain Sean Kaiser.
Hey, we're gonna go.
Sean, I'm unmuting you. It's not working. Sean, you're muted. Press *1. Okay. I don't know what's going on. I think he still needs time to connect. Go ahead.
Okay, we're going to go on to approval of the April 20th minutes. If I can get a motion for that approval.
I move to approve the minutes. This is Senia.
Unfortunately, these are board member minutes, so it needs to be moved by a board member. We have 11 board members present today, and Xenia.
Sorry, this is Amanda. I move to approve the April 20 minutes.
I second. This is
Wind.
Wind. I second.
Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes?
Veronica?
Yes.
Oh, never mind. Sorry. Disregard.
Okay, so if there's no, I don't hear any additions or corrections. Can you do a roll call, Veronica?
Please say yes, no, or abstain when I call your name. Rosanna Ibarra.
Yes.
Jackie Williams.
Here.
Yes to the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, no, or abstained. Wind?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Judy Albert?
Yes.
Dan?
Abstain.
Sean, are you with us? That might be him on the phone. Sean, are you with us? Okay, I'm gonna skip him. Rachel McDavid just joined us, but I'm gonna, Rachel, are you with us? Okay, Sandra Stolfi
Yes.
and Q.
Abstain.
We have a quorum, motion passed.
Okay, thank you. So since we had 2 meetings in April, we need to approve the April 27th minutes as well. So I need another motion for those.
The meeting was, why? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Any current board members?
Karen Lovato moving to approve the April 27th meeting. Sorry, I was just making sure I was actually present for that.
I second that.
Any discussion?
Hearing no discussion, Veronica, let's have a roll call.
Rosanna?
It's Roseanne. I
Okay, I'm
abstained.
sorry.
I wasn't present at that meeting.
So abstain.
Yes.
Jackie?
Approve.
Wind?
Abstain.
Grace?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes, and Luce is here now.
Okay, excellent. Judy?
Yes.
Dan?
Abstain, I wasn't here.
Sean, are you with us?
Veronica, he asked if you could unmute him. I think he's the 200 phone number, maybe.
Sean?
Thank you.
Yay!
I'm going to blast you down. Sorry. Yeah, I'm here and yes.
Yes, okay. Yes. Rachel, are you with us? I don't see her anymore. Okay. Sandra.
Sorry, I apologize. I was muted.
Oh,
I will
hi,
get used to
Rachel.
it eventually. Hi, Veronica. Thank you so much. I abstained because I was not here for that meeting.
Got it. I'll introduce you
Thank you.
in a little bit. Sandra,
good,
did you
thank
say
you.
yes? Did I don't
Yes.
remember. Sandra?
Yes, Veronica.
Thank you. Q?
Abstain, I believe I wasn't here for the meeting as well.
Okay. We have a, yes, motion passed. 8 out of 11. So we've had a few people join us. So I wanted to verify that we have had join us both Sean Kaiser and of City of Ukiah and Rachel McDavid, the new executive director for Ukiah Senior Center. And Luz, are you with us yet?
Yeah. She's on my
Excellent.
screen. Yeah.
Excellent. I'll mark everybody down, and I'll do some introductions here in a little bit.
All right, thank you, Veronica. Hey, I got a question for you on the next item in the agenda packet. It says board meeting agenda for May 18th. Is that supposed to be minutes for the 18th? Or is that erroneously put in the packet?
It was supposed to be, it's minutes. And I forgot to put it on the top of the agenda because I got it done last second. So you can decide whether you want to vote on it or not. You could just reference it and I can bring it back next month as well.
Yeah, we'll just bring it back next month for approval.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna go on to the next updates for local jurisdictions. Megan, is Tammy on?
Tammy was not able to be here today, unfortunately. So I'm going to give a brief update on, sorry, let me gather my thoughts. I'm going to do a brief update on the local implementation of Project Room Key from the county's perspective. So I'll just hop into that if that's okay with everybody.
Go ahead.
Okay, so as you know, the county had been, and together with funding from the COC's COVID emergency homeless allocation, has been supporting a total of 227 adults and 29 children since the beginning of the project in motel rooms for non-congregate shelter since mid-March. Because we are running out of funding on the local match side, the program is beginning to phase out, and starting effective July 1, we will have 82 rooms and 104 people exiting the motels on July 1, so that's Wednesday. The program is retaining 30 rooms and 37 people in the motel rooms. These are individuals who recently received PSH vouchers from the CDC. So they will be able to stay in their motel rooms at least until July 15th. And if FEMA extends for another month, probably through the full month of July. All of the individuals in the motels have been notified that the county will no longer pay for their room beginning July 1. And we're starting to understand what some of those folks are planning in terms of their exit strategies. About 12, maybe more, I'm not actually, it's probably more. A number of the rooms have been taken over by other funding sources. So the VA was able to continue to support their veterans who still needed to stay in motels. CalWorks is continuing to support most of the families. HDAP program is taking over one or two. So there's a couple different programs that are sponsoring some individuals that are no longer on our radar. But that's sort of where we are. So I expect there will be some turmoil in the community on Wednesday, July 1. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Just one thing I want to add that Megan didn't go over is that come the July meeting, if the FEMA funding is extended, we may be bringing back to the board the use of some of the HEAP interest money to help the gap funding for the match money on FEMA if the FEMA stuff gets extended. So.
This is Wind. Megan, I have a question about if you have a breakdown between how many people are exiting on the coast and inland.
Yes, there's 27 rooms on the coast. So I think it's like 34 people, something like that. 27 rooms on the coast. And so whatever 82 minus 27 is, whatever that is.
Thank you.
40 something is what the remainder is inland. And I will say, Carla, and Carla, you can chime in here, seems to have really done some really awesome work with the rooms on the coast and have a plan for, I think, most of those people. I don't know exactly what the plan is, but some sort of plan. So
awesome.
Yeah, we're really fortunate to have those groups so well managed.
Awesome.
Yeah, so the team here has been working individually with the clients, and we have almost all of the plans done. And so hopefully our transition out goes really smoothly on Wednesday morning.
Okay.
So,
Megan.
Carla?
Yeah.
Can I ask you just a question? So when you say it goes really smoothly, does that mean they found family members, they found friends, or something? I mean, I presume you mean when you say it's going smoothly, meaning they're not going to be on the streets.
Okay, so there's approximately 18 folks who were previously camping in their cars, and some of those folks will be going home to families. 9 folks will be going back to the hospitality house. We have, I think, 4 or 5 people who are going into transitional housing. When it's all said and done, the last time I checked the numbers, it looked like maybe 5 or 6 individuals that we don't have a plan for yet.
Okay, that's excellent.
Yeah, the team's been working really hard. I'm really proud of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go on to the city of Ukiah. Megan, you have anything else, Megan?
No, I don't have anything else for now.
Sean or Shannon, you want to give the city cause update?
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm really bad at this. So just to bring an update, as far as the city goes, everybody's, I'm sure, is aware of the encampment on June 8th. The encampment was broken up. And I just wanted to give a little brief update and a huge shout out and thank you to the following agencies: RQMC, Public Defender's Office, RCS, Animal Control with the county, Adventist Health, NorCal Ministries, and members of HHSA. Thank you very much for all the help. A special thanks to Megan, Joy, and Veronica for all the work that they did. Joy and Veronica, thank you very much. They were a huge help on the day of. So that everybody is aware, we ended up taking the city streets department, ended up hauling a total of 51 tons of trash out of that area. And all in all, short of, I think I would have to default to Megan as far as housing went for people. I can say that there were no arrests or cites issued that day of, and pretty much everybody was in compliance and went along with the whole removal of the area. I think I forgot RCS too. Thank you. Anyways, that's as far as our report goes.
Thanks, Sean.
This is Shannon. Can I tag on to that?
Go ahead, Shannon.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to echo Sean's gratitude to the group. It was a really remarkable collaborative effort, especially Megan, who really bore the brunt of the planning on this one and did a phenomenal job. I want to point out to the group, in case you didn't notice this, in the strategic plan that was recently adopted, one of the items there is to develop encampment engagement protocols. And the idea was, following the airport road cleanup, we wanted to have kind of a collaborative brainstorming session about how to engage encampments in the future. And the idea was to do this when there wasn't a particularly volatile or large encampment that we were going to have to deal with. And so the idea was that, tensions wouldn't be high and we could do this in a really neutral environment. And we never got that opportunity, and instead had to work together with everyone to address this encampment because of the proximity to the airport. So it went phenomenally well from our perspective, acknowledging, of course, that it is disruptive to people's lives. But I want to really thank everyone's efforts. I think a lot of good came out of it, and I hope Megan will, if she hasn't done so already, share some of the stories that came out of it. Thank you.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
This may be obvious to everyone. I'm a little bit new, so or it may have been covered already. But the people who were moved from the encampment, were they moved? Are they now housed, or are they still unhoused? And if COVID continues to surge and becomes a problem for the county, what's the proposed action going to be with regard to the in-house population currently?
Megan?
I guess in response to the first question about the encampment, no, I guess the short answer is we did not offer an alternative location for people to move who are unhoused. That wasn't the project. We didn't have a place for them to go. We didn't have housing available for that demographic, and we didn't have a sanctioned encampment or another place to camp that was authorized to do so. So the people that were living at the encampment were informed that they needed to leave. They, I can't say for certain where all of them went. Some of them did find places to be. Some of them were placed in motels because they fit various criteria. Some of them drove off, and I don't know where they went. It's really hard to tell. It's a very transient, very unstable population. So it's really hard to keep track of where people went and what their plans were. We did offer room rental vouchers for anybody who could find a friend or family to stay with. We offered transportation vouchers. The shelter was there offering to register anybody to intake into the shelter if there was a bed available. So we made any resource that we had available to them, but we don't have a supply of housing available for everybody. The other question in terms of what's the plan for the unhoused during this pandemic, we have, as I mentioned in my report earlier, we did and have a opportunity for people who met certain criteria to stay in motels. It was an extremely expensive project. The community spent $1 million in the last 3 months on that project. So it was extremely expensive. It continues to be extremely expensive. The federal government will reimburse 75% of those costs for people who are eligible, but it's not a sustainable program. So in terms of what the future holds, I just don't know. There's new opportunities and new funding sources coming available at different timelines, at different ways. And we're all just trying to do our best to figure out what's possible, but we simply don't have housing, affordable housing stock in this community that can house everybody.
Thank you, Megan. Did Sarah show up, or Tabitha from the city of Fort Bragg?
Not that I've seen.
Okay, I didn't see him come in either. Okay. And we don't have it. Is there anybody out from the city of Willits?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
We'll go down to standing committee reports then, Veronica.
Hey, Dan, you're pretty quiet. Just both you, Veronica, and Dan are sort of quiet, just a FYI.
Okay, I'll speak up a little bit. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, I'll speak up to them because my mic's already up, so I'm not sure what's up with it.
Thank you.
We'll go on to strategic committee reports I guess I'll do strategic planning since it's at the top of the list. We are going to have a strategic planning committee meeting sometime in the month of July, most likely the week prior to July 20th. And Veronica will send out a doodle poll. Veronica does not know that yet, but I will email Veronica so she knows that. And what that's going in the planning committee, we're going to give an update on where we are with jurisdiction notification of the strategic plan. We're going to discuss the HAP HAP funding a little bit, and we're also going to talk about the CARES Act ESG grant money that's being allocated to the county. So those are some of the things that are going to be on the strategic planning meeting minutes for that meeting in July, and we'll send out a doodle poll to see if it fits everybody's schedule. Hopefully we can have it before the July 20th meeting, but if not, we will do it the week of the 20th too. That's all I have, unless there's any other questions.
Dan, I just admitted Sarah McCormick from City of Fort Bragg.
Okay.
Dan, will the meeting be available in Zoom?
Yeah, we are going to do it in Zoom.
Okay, that's what I thought.
It's just a matter of finding a time slot. It's probably going to be an hour to hour and a half. There's 3 pretty important topics we have to go over. But Veronica, we'll work on getting a doodle poll out to see what works best for everybody.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Sarah, how you doing?
Well, she's on the call and she's unmuted. Sarah, are you there? City of Fort Bragg? Maybe their audio isn't connected yet.
Hey, we'll give them a few minutes. We can go back to it.
Okay.
Is Angelica here? Anybody on Shelter and Solution? Veronica?
I'm here, Dan.
Hey, Angelica, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well, thanks. All right, so we met last Monday, June 22nd, by Google Hangout. And 2 things we're looking at right now, or prioritizing right now, is first, for the COC strategic plan, one of the action items for this committee is to identify possible areas of expansion for shelter, and that includes emergency temporary shelter. And the COC talks a lot about the need for a year-round inland emergency shelter. and of course repeatedly expressed gratitude to RCS in taking on the inland winter shelter and B2. But there isn't a lot in writing or action to support a year-round inland emergency shelter. And we think for funding purposes and other purposes, we think that it would be helpful to have something more concrete to make a year-round shelter a reality. So for the July 20th governing board meeting, we hope to have a resolution for the board to consider to demonstrate that commitment, if in fact it has that commitment. The second thing that we talked about at our last meeting was looking at the criminalization of homelessness and looking at local laws with respect to that. And the COC never really opines on these issues, or at least it hasn't been a topic or discussion at a governing board COC meeting in a while, but it's certainly something that this COC can be more proactive about instead of reactive. So at some point, this committee would like to have a discussion at a board meeting. And so we're going to be figuring out how we can frame that for an agenda item for this board. So that's pretty much it. And our next meeting is going to be Monday, July 13th at 10 a.m. by Google Hangout. And that's it.
Angelica, could I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. I was just, this is not so much around the strategic planning committee report you just gave, but I know California had, I think had said like, no, you can't evict anybody for this COVID time. Has that been extended, or does that have an end date, or for landlords and people who have not been able to cover their rents?
It's complicated. So California doesn't necessarily have a law like the boards. I mean, the governor's law on no evictions if you can't pay your rent because of COVID, that expired. But it only expired because the governor felt that a rule passed by the courts, the Judicial Council of California, is more protective, and it basically provides there can be no evictions unless eviction is for a health and safety issue. So there can be no evictions until 90 days after the lifting of the governor's emergency declaration. So that's what the law is currently. Okay. And the governor still has not lifted his emergency declaration.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other?
I have a question if I can.
Go ahead.
Yes, is that okay?
Yeah, who's this? Rachel?
This is Rachel.
Yeah, go ahead.
So here at the senior center, obviously our niche is serving seniors, but it does include people who are experiencing being shelterless. And I wanted just to explore the possibility. I'm really just easing into it. But if there's a scenario where we cannot use our facility for anything else but emergency shelter, who would I talk to about that possibility of setting up a contract or an agreement? I'm already wanting, of course, for us to be a day center for seniors as a cooling station and during the season, the summer season, but also to, you know, the fire dangers for us to be an emergency site for people to go to. But I'm just curious, is there somebody on this group that I could speak to, or somebody that you recommend I talk to about that?
Veronica?
Yeah, that's probably me, Rachel.
Okay. All right.
I can explain the different funding sources that are available through the COC as well as some through HHSA. I can work with my supervisor, Megan Van Zant, who's on this as well, to, you know, possibly identify things that I'm not aware of.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm the one. You have my email. We should probably get together and talk.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Veronica?
Yes.
And she probably needs to know what her use permit situation is as well.
Ah, very good point.
Yeah. And Shannon could help if she doesn't know, but it's the combination of what she can provide, what her use permit currently lets her provide. Because Rachel, if you want to expand some things, you have to, the city, and we can help you with that too. There's just a couple of things to think about.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we're definitely, I know this conversation has been had before for our center. We just didn't have the backup generator, which we are getting this summer. So yes, more than happy to talk to whomever I need to get the proper permits and everything. Thank you.
All right, Sage, you want to give an update on coordinated entry and discharge planning?
Yes. So coordinated entry and discharge planning committee has been meeting weekly, sorry, because we've had so many shifts in how we need to utilize coordinated entry to best to make it the most accessible to really the folks most in need right now, which is our folks at risk for complications due to COVID-19. So at our, I think it was the April COC board meeting, or was it the March COC? Anyway, one of the last COC board meetings, the board had given the coordinated entry discharge planning committee the ability to make some on the fly kind of changes and adjustments to coordinated entry so that we could be able to move quickly. And that has been really helpful in being able to kind of respond to the changing needs. So right now our coordinated entry system is set up so that we are making our coordinated entry housing resources available to those people who meet the high risk factors. We have rolled that out, made a few adjustments, but it seems like we've kind of worked out some of the initial challenges with changing how we do our whole system. So for those who might be new to the call or not as familiar with coordinated entry, just a really quick synopsis of it. In the past, if you were homeless in the streets of Mendocino County and were trying to get help, you could get access to our coordinated entry system, which does a standardized screening. Everybody gets asked the same questions, and then that screening is used to prioritize you for housing resources such as permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, and things like that. And so now it's really been streamlined down to just those folks who are most at risk are being screened. And then we're referring the other folks who don't meet that high risk for COVID-19 category to other resources in the community. So that's my update.
Thank you, Sage. Was there any other questions on that? Okay, we're going to go on to Veronica. You want to give an update on membership committee if you have one?
Yes. We have revised our membership list to reflect people who are currently engaged in the COC. I sent emails out to representatives who haven't been engaged in a while. One person said, thanks, keep the emails going, but not interested in participating like I was. And pretty much everybody else I didn't receive a response from. So if anybody's interested in who those organizations and representatives are, I can do that outside of this, this forum. We have received 1 new and 2 revised COC applications. We have a new member. Her name is Luz Martinez. She is a transitional age youth who, and I'll get to that in a little bit. We also have a new executive director, as we just heard at the Ukiah Senior Center, Rachel McDavid. And then we also have a new representative. She's been here for a few times, but I haven't had the real opportunity to formally introduce her, Roseanne Ibarra of Adventist Health. So I just wanted to give these 3 folks the opportunity to introduce themselves if they would like. Why don't we go ahead and start with Rachel, since she's kind of spoken up recently?
Yes. Thank you. I'm very honored to be part of this group. So again, I'm the executive director for the Ukiah Senior Center. I've worked in nonprofits my entire career in all many sectors, from volunteerism to the arts to youth development, foster homes, or group homes, and also I ran a homeless shelter in Berkeley, which obviously is the most sorry, my brain just got distracted. The most impactful, I think, experience for overall in my life, but also in terms of this work, really gave me insight in terms of what it takes. And I have the biggest heart appreciation for those of you who work within that sector, because it's not easy, and it's such a heartfelt need out in the community. And unfortunately, we don't ever seem to have the resources that we need to really address that issue. And really support people who are shelterless. And on top of that, there's the stigma. I've also worked in mental health, so aware of how that intersects with homelessness or shelterless. And that's something else that I've really appreciated becoming aware of and learning from my experiences. And so I'm just, again, very honored to be part of this group, because unfortunately what I've already heard so far is not new. There's always not enough resources. And so as the nonprofit organizations working with county agencies and local agencies striving to meet the needs while we know we don't have enough, that's always a really painful challenge, because in the meantime, people are on the streets. Not getting their needs met, and their issues are growing, because as we all know, mental illness comes from homelessness. And so whatever I'm able to do, I'm definitely wanting to change, the culture here in terms of the senior center, recognizing that we serve all seniors, including those who are who appear to be shelterless, transient, or just really struggling with whatever's going on in their lives. And so wanting to reshape the space here so it's inclusive and really looking at intersectionality of our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Roseanne, did you want to take a moment? Totally optional.
Sure, and it's to share why I'm here. Sorry, I had to
whatever you want us to know, just to introduce yourself. Rachel went into her past experiences in this field, but it's whatever you want to share, maybe your role there.
Absolutely. So my name's Roseanne Ibarra. I'm the Director of Community Integration for Adventist Health. I'm representing all three hospitals, so Ukiah, Willits, and Fort Bragg. This is a new position that was created, so I am responsible for overseeing the community health needs assessment that we do, along with the community benefit work we do. Adventist Health was selected, the Mendocino County site was selected as one of 4 pioneer sites across the Adventist Health system. So the other sites are in Marysville, East Los Angeles, and Sonora. And so we're the only one that's in entire county. So with that, we are tasked with defining the Adventist Health blueprint for community well-being over the next 3 years. So I will be undertaking that work along with a site team that we've formed here internally, but also working with community partners to define signature projects that can be replicated across our other markets. So those projects will be specifically regarding our vulnerable populations. So there's one project that some of you may already be familiar with, Safe Haven Project, that we've formed a work group on defining. And so it's a large undertaking that's for safe sobering, medical respite, outpatient pharmacy, and there's training that's also involved in that project. So it's going to be interesting work. And so I appreciate this opportunity to be here at this table. I'm replacing Lindsay Spencer.
Thank you, Roseanne. And Luz, there's absolutely no pressure. We are very excited to have you here. We understand that you play a different role whenever you are here because you bring the lived experience that this board so desperately needs. So if you and Amanda want to go ahead and take a moment and introduce yourself, that would be really great. Totally optional though.
Yeah, I can start. I approached Luce and asked her if she would be interested in participating in this board. And I singled her out because she really has a desire to get involved in this work later on in her life. She's taking steps towards this human services field. She has a lot of valuable insight to share. So I was very excited when she agreed to join us here, and she's very thoughtful and has really valuable perspective. So thank you, Luce. You want to share just for a second why you're interested in being here?
I'm just interested in getting involved.
Luce, it's live.
Oh, hi.
I just want to congratulate you on your most recent graduation, you lady.
Thank you.
Aw.
Oh, I wanted to learn more about supporting people and helping them so they won't deal with the homelessness like I did. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us. We're very glad to have you here. And then for the rest of my committee update, following this meeting at 3:30, I will be hosting the annual new member invitation and orientation. So anyone who's interested in asking questions, learning more about how the COC works and stuff, you have an invitation in your email, and you're more than welcome to join us. So, and just as a side note, Lisa Judd just joined us. Can you hear us, Lisa?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
All right, Dan, that's mine.
Thank you. Gary, is Gary on, Veronica?
He is not. He's watching on YouTube. HMIS Performance Measurement Committee didn't meet last month because a lot of the work that's being done is through the Coordinated Entry Discharge Planning Committee. And so everyone that's pretty much on the HMIS committee is also on that committee. And the work is kind of just being done simultaneously. Monthly progress report, data quality reports are being sent to the end users. I'm hearing that our HMIS data is really getting really a lot better. And so come this next time around, we're going to have a much better update on where we're at and things that are going on. But we've been able to keep up with the HMIS lead demands of updating the system to accommodate new projects like the project room key that we're doing through the motel vouchers. And other projects. So we're keeping up, we're treading water, but Brian is still out on at the EOC, so it's just me and Gary and doing the best we can. And that's my update.
Okay, thank you. So I guess we'll move on to the ad hoc committee reports. Do you have one for the point in time count? I don't think there's anything that important.
It's not meeting yet, but the point in time count is due to HUD tomorrow. So we'll be doing our final submission. I'm reviewing the data right now. I've been working on it. So we'll have that in by today or tomorrow. And that's our first draft to HUD. HUD will come back with some, they do math that I don't understand, and come back with clarifications from us. And then after that's done, then the final report will be completed.
Okay.
So what we're submitting is just the first draft.
Okay, thank you. The HAP committee has not met, so I do not have a report on that.
And the ESG ad hoc committee did the rating and ranking, and it is being presented to the board today.
Okay. Okay, so the next part's yours, Veronica.
Okay, so we've had 3 of our governing board seats expire. And we've also had a vacancy for quite some time in one of our seats, the homeless or formerly homeless transitional age youth. And we have a nomination. Luz has been nominated.
Are you going to do the presentation or are you going to do the governance first?
Oh, I totally skipped it. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It was one little line. Okay, backing up. Forget everything I just said. Hugh, are you with me?
I'm muted now.
Okay, so Hugh B. Anthony is our homeless or formerly homeless board member. He came to me recently and expressing a desire to come to the COC with some of his viewpoints and experiences. Really what he's looking to do is really to help everyone understand his past dynamics and what he brings to the table, but also to help us understand what it's like to be on the other side of the experience, the other side of the table. A person who's receiving services, a person who is on the streets, experiencing homelessness, and in need of that kind of guidance. So he was here to share his thoughts. And so we'll be doing that presentation, and I'm gonna get your PowerPoint going, and I'm gonna leave it to you, Hugh.
Thank you, Veronica. Hi, guys. Forgive me. I'm going through a lot of things emotionally, especially with, of course, everything what's going on in the world for the last month and a half, or even longer, so to speak. But it's hit me hard because of, if a lot of you have been able to view some of those videos that I've sent ahead of time in the packet, it explains a lot. But here's the part that like most people don't actually get, and that's my beginning. I kind of nicknamed it the unapologetic version of Q, is because of the different raw emotions that I've gone through in everything, and how much it's like, it rips at somebody. I'm 40 years old now. I was born and raised in New York City. At 4 years old, about, my mother and father broke up. In breaking up, there was a lot of interaction with the court cases in court systems. And I went through a lot of dealings where I had to have a mediator between my mother and my father, and me seeing my father. That's at the young age of like 4 and 5. Later, fast forward until about like 9.5 years old, 8.5, 9 years old, I was a runaway. I ran away because of the instances that I didn't understand until later in my life. Yes, as many of you fully know, I am openly gay man. In American society, I'm Black. I am a Christian. I am so many different things in so many different categories that I didn't recognize that in myself even at that age. And even though I love my family, a lot of the things that I've gone and was put through because of my family sent me down the road of being a runaway, ending up in the foster care system where from 8.5, 9 years old to about 13 and a half years old. I was in Children's Child Care Psychiatric Ward for about a year and a half. I was in a Astor Home for Children, Lincoln Watts, and I was in and had the choice of either staying with a foster family or being adopted out. I chose to return to my family because of kind of like an obligation of taking care of my sister and my younger cousins. That was the way my family was raised me. Mother's side of the family is from Costa Rica, father's side of the family is from Jamaica. Those strict family ties that are also deeply seated in the church system is what in many ways killed a lot of me and broke me down because of my sexuality. I was trying and struggling to find out who I was, and yet still my family, even until about 2 years ago when I stopped talking to one of my aunts, and pretty much she was my favorite aunt. She actually helped me in one of my problem-solving methods. Turned around and told me when I'm up there trying to congratulate her on her 70th birthday, you know, God doesn't like gays, right? And me trying to reunite my family in certain ways because even in certain times, fast forwarding from childhood to adulthood, my family watched out for my niece, and my niece didn't get to understand that my reason why my mother and my father, when I was a child, broke out was because my father's a pedophile. He done a lot of stuff to me when I was a kid I don't remember, but there are certain things that my mind has blocked out. Other things I can't forget. I have such a memory in certain ways that even when I was in college, my mother, doing a paper for college, my mother realized that I was still remembering things from when I was a baby. I'm sorry
That's
if things
really impressive that you know you're able to recount all of this for us today. I just wanted to take a moment and thank you for sharing all of that with us. And you and I have been in discussions about this. And one of the things that I really took away from what you're sharing right now is that your experiences have led you to have multiple perspectives. You have the perspective. Go ahead.
It has. Unfortunately, sometimes you might find that I jump all over the places in trying to set to one narrative. It's because I'm seeing it from the big black man perspective. I'm seeing it from the gay perspective. I'm seeing it from a black gay man's perspective, because unfortunately, just being a black man and being a gay black man is two different separate entities in itself. Even in the gay community, I have so many different perspectives for somebody who's formerly in the foster care system, who has my instances where there's been things that has happened in the foster care system, even with times when I've ran away with guys trying to take advantage of me on the streets. And luckily, I've always been a bigger guy to be able to fend myself off in that way.
And I'm sure that, you know, a lot of that also brings up your experiences as an unhoused person, being on the streets, having nowhere to go.
You see, that's where everything in itself relates to me being unhoused. a lot of the same instances that mentally get brought up is the same things that I mentally deal with as being unhoused. Like, say, for instance, some of the same emotional or degrading feelings that you get from, and I have gotten from my 40 years existence from just the color of my skin, not intentionally, and unfortunately, unapologetically, even sometimes from some of the board members here today. It's not meaning, it's that underlying tone that sometimes it doesn't seem like it, but I do feel it. But at the same time, it's that same instances that I feel when, or have felt when being out on the streets. It's those same feelings, those same occurrences as like when somebody's judging somebody else for because they've gone through situations where they've been raped when they was a kid. You feel that those same things because of knowing so many different people out in the streets who have gone through those same scenarios, and even yourself going through some of those scenarios yourself. It's related. Everything is related, and those instances eventually has been what has not even only escalated, but given me different PTSDs on top of the PTSDs and anxieties on top of my already bipolar and manic depressive state of mind. Unfortunately, right now, because of everything in the world, if you notice, I'm a little bouncy. I don't mean to be. It's because I'm going through a manic state of mind at the moment.
Hey, Q, I think this would be a really good time to show one of the videos of the address for the city council, the Sacramento City Council. It's a really good, and we'll
Go
show
for
it.
He said it best in some ways.
Hopefully you guys will be able to hear
Thanks
this.
so much, Bingham. And thanks for having us here. So yeah, I'm Shahara Hyatt, talking today on behalf of the Right to Rest movement here occupying City Hall. So this is a diverse coalition of folks, including advocates, service providers, medical and nursing students, Black Lives Matter, many folks in the queer community, and of course, people experiencing homelessness that are joined by the shared belief that the city of Sacramento should repeal the anti-camping ordinance.
Please note this was from 2016.
Repealing the anti-camping ordinance is not a solution to ending homelessness, but it is a solution to ending the criminalization of homelessness, which also does not solve homelessness, but actually makes it worse by forcing people to cascade down a criminal justice system that is unfit and unable to meet their needs. We believe that law enforcement officers are not a successful conduit to housing. Homelessness service providers are, which is why it's so important to fund street outreach. Street outreach workers are much more knowledgeable about the services available in the community and better equipped to respond to the health and mental health needs of people living on the streets. Often when a law enforcement officer responds to a call about someone who is believed to be homeless, a situation escalates because an unfair power struggle occurs. By asking people not to stop engaging in criminal behavior, but to stop engaging in human behavior. Stop sleeping. Stop laying down to rest your body and mind. In doing so, they actually reduce the public health and safety of our community if you consider our homeless neighbors when you think about community impact. I think many officers would agree this isn't the job they set out to do. Police are being asked to respond to a social problem rather than a criminal issue. And when all you've got is a hammer, you guys know the phrase, right? Everything starts to look like a nail. So if this approach is so clearly ridiculous, and it is, and it's not just me or the folks in the Right to Rest movement that feel that way, there's a mountain of literature of research that backs this up, not to mention the lived experiences of people who are homeless, who are more than willing to talk about the detrimental nature of this approach, if we should choose to listen.
Go ahead, Q.
As she actually stated in that that speech that she gave to City Council, when you stop somebody from sleeping, it does have a negative effect on them. Right now, actually, even because of, like, say, my manic state of mind, it does have effect on me. I haven't, in just a reference, I haven't slept properly in the last week. I've maybe gotten 6 hours of sleep in the last 4 days. And in that, even when noticing when I was out on the streets and doing that protest that video actually came from, sleep deprivation is a cause that makes people, it makes them seem like they're tweaking. Unfortunately, that's the best way I can actually see it. I end up, like, even right now with so much sleep deprivation, I almost feel and seem like I've been tweaking for months and I've never touched this stuff. And that's just the sleep deprivation aspect of it. And one of the things that we were trying to even make City Council address there in Sacramento at that protest, that, like, that just little bit of being able to sleep and sleep soundly, sleep in, be able to get rest, be able to find some place to put your stuff, even if it's just for the night, to be sound and secure, makes a hell of a difference in being able to even get up and find a job.
Hugh.
I can't say, yes.
Will you tell us a little bit more about your activism and how your experiences, like what you're talking about right now, led you to become involved in changing things?
I actually have a question, if I could. I'm sorry,
Could we
Veronica.
hold questions till the end? He's going to take questions at the end.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
In my activism, up until that point, 35 years, 7 months, and 11 days. That's how old I was before I ever got arrested in my life. Up until that point, I even, at that first night of that protest starting, the right to rest, it started on September 8th, 2015. That first night, I was just passing by. And a police officer came up and started harassing me across the street from where that protest was actually at, to triggering something that, like, continues to fuel me now. Here I was just passing through, not doing anything, not intending on, like, being a nuisance. I try as best, even when not in the right state of mind and in my manic state, I try to disappear from everybody else so that I'm not taking out my own things on that person, even though I'm going through my own issues. When you have police officers abusing power in certain ways, to, like, say, oh, you're in the wrong place in the wrong time. It's not a bashing at police officers, it's a bashing at the system. That's how I feel personally anyway. Because the system is what's pushing them to make somebody, even when they was harassing me and a friend, to push me into going to that protest. And being a part of it that first night throughout the 96 days that we occupied City Hall in that protest. It it's saying that like I don't want to be harassed just because I'm passing through, or because I was a traveler at that time. I was just passing through Sacramento. I'll try to find a decent place that's not impeding on anybody as far as trespassing, doing anything out of the ordinary other than just trying to sleep. And once I get up in the morning, I'm gone. Don't
So
leave a
Q,
mess.
you tried to be very respectful of the system and the rules and of law enforcement whenever you were going through all of this. And that the reason you got involved in activism was because that was a system that had to change. It wasn't any one person. It wasn't one entity. It was the entire system set up, correct?
It's not even just the entire system set up. It's the fact that like, when everything is said and done, the system perpetuates that like, oh, just because I'm out in the streets that I don't want to work, that I don't want to do anything to be a better person. And it goes from even like some of the videos that was in my activism, the times that police will come down and clear off, because we was even getting into voter registrations. My tables that I would set up had them nice, organized with different supplies, with food, with clothing, everything nicely folded and organized. It will come by, sweep everything, pull everything, almost destroy the entire thing. And then by that time media comes out to take pictures, it's a tornado of a site, and it looks bad on the people who's trying to actually improve change. And that's the part of the system that like ends up happening within everything, rather than. You was going to ask a question, Robert?
Can you tie that in for me for why you're here, why you are on the board?
No, of course. When everything is said and done, when in reality, I'm going to be completely honest. When I came back to you, Kaya, I came back for a guy. And in coming back for that guy, when doing my activism down in Sacramento, I didn't want, because this is his hometown, his home place that he was born and raised in, him to be harassed because he was out in the streets himself. A lot of my friends were asking me at the same time, because they knew exactly what I was doing down in Sacramento, to be a voice of reason, because when I'm myself, I can be that voice of reason. I can be somebody who can advocate for somebody who may have a disability, may have been broken by the system, because of the system perpetuating, oh, let's get you off the streets. Okay, once you get me off the streets, what's the condition of maybe the place that I'm in? And then if I'm voicing an opinion about helping get that place in order to be a better place, for not only health reasons, but like so that you that individual has a mentally place to go in society and be peaceful in their own skin, so that they don't have all that, the same feelings like they did when they was out in the streets.
A feeling of safety, of welcomeness, of being part of the community, not being a pole on the community. So
exactly.
We're running out of time.
Okay.
So will you please let us know
what do you want us to take away from this presentation?
Truthfully, I want you to realize how human everybody is. Unfortunately, I had a whole different way of wanting to fully present this to
You're
the
doing a
entire
great
board.
job. It's different, but it's good.
For me, it's not, because what the points that I wanted to make, the different distinctions of what ends up happening in somebody's life, even after they get housed, and from when they're unhoused to when they get housed, from the start of their life to what comes up to this point in their life, all that in between has a factor of them being housed. And if we're not taking account of all those different factors, including while they're being housed, there are going to be, and I know people, including myself, that when certain situations happen and you're actually screaming to, say in my case, it'll be landlords, police, different things, and where it's like even including your own neighbors after you become housed from being unhoused, and you're asking, hey, can I get help over here trying to do things legally, and you're not getting that help, you're just going to end up back into that perpetuating system of like, screw this, I'm going back out on the streets where I know I can control the situation.
I remember you telling me about the camaraderie that you and the others who were in the activism outside of Sacramento, and how that became almost as a family for you. You took care of each other, you looked out for each other. And whenever you go from being unhoused to being housed, you lose a lot of that. You lose those connections. You're not constantly around those people, and you start to feel alone. And then you struggle with a whole new set of issues, like dealing with landlords and dealing with, legal systems. And it can be overwhelming. And literally it can, if without proper supports, people walk away from housing. Would you agree with what I said or add anything?
Fago, the main organizer of that protest, he was the one who started it. We have so many different views. I'm Christian, he's atheist. The difference of certain things and opinions, but yet still the ability of being able to say, okay, let's hash this out, is what actually became, he's one of my friends that right now with everything going on, I try to check in every so often, even though I don't have a Facebook anymore because of my anxieties forced me to cut Facebook. I still text them, hey, dude, you still alive? You still doing okay? That reminds me, I have to check in, see if he's staying out of the activism stuff, real quick, because with my memory, I remember us still in those times sitting out there, and with all the activism stuff that there's a phrase between us, and yes, a lot of military men will say incoming when they're having when there's an action going on. When we had a lot of the police raids and being arrested and everything like that,
you communicated.
We communicated in the fact that he can nod and no, and I knew that he was going to jail that night.
And so you would take care of his stuff, and you took care of each other, and you were a family. No matter what your differences were, no matter what your opinions on other things, being on the streets, you have each other's back. And what I remember you sharing with me is that's why you joined the COC, was because you can see there's different approaches. Everybody has a different philosophy, but we have to work together despite those differences. And that
one of the reasons I joined the COC is the family that I've made here in Ukiah prior to anybody knowing me. When I first came to Ukiah, if you guys remember a guy out on where Chipotle is now, flying a cigarette sign out there a couple of years ago.
Sure. Yeah, I remember him. The sign guy.
Yeah, that was me. It was only for a couple of months, but like that is where and how I met some of the family that I have now. One of my best friends that like at the time worked at Chevron, still best friends here today, and she knew me from the streets. Some of the people who asked me to like stick up for them here on the COC board, I still am friends with them today. And like, though they're doing other works behind the scenes and making sure that people are not overdosing on different things, they know that I'm here speaking up for everybody else, because the times that I hold it together a lot longer than anybody else can, I can sit here and be like, all right, this is what should be going down. This is what should be going down. Pay attention to this scenario. That's my family. More family than my blood has ever been. So there's nothing that I won't do for my.
Hey, Q, you've done an amazing job. And I think that at this point, we've reached the maximum of our time. So why don't we take some questions and questions at this point? I know Rachel had a question early on. Why don't we start with her?
Go for
Thank
it.
you, Veronica. And yeah, sorry. Thank you, Q, for sharing. I can see and hear how hard that is, and my heart goes out to you. I guess I want to go back to the beginning of your presentation. You had said something about how even in this group, the way that we talk about the needs around shelterless individuals, like that it could be a trigger, that it could be, didn't resonate, didn't feel right. And I'm wondering, I don't know, I'm completely new, so I apologize, but like, is this the first time that this has happened? And even if not, like, I guess, is this group like creating the space, which I think is always needed, right? Is for us to talk about how do we even talk about this so that we're being not inclusive just of the issues, but inclusive of the experiences of those who are having the needs around homelessness. You know what I mean? Like, so you're saying something doesn't, I don't know. Is that making sense?
No, it's making perfect sense. And here's the key. Unfortunately, it's not as simple as having a standard for people. It's getting to know that individual. Everybody is different. My triggers is different from one of my other friends who I know who he lives out in the streets. He actually works for, say, Moyers right now. Loves that he works for them. Got his job back after being parted from them for a while, but yet still he prefers living out in the streets. And one of his triggers is because he lost most of his family in a fire. It's different for everybody else. So you have to get to know that individual in order to be able to say, okay, what's this triggers that's going to trigger you that's going to be different from Bob, that's going to be different from Susan, which that's going to be from Jane, because everybody grew up differently, grew up different eras, different locations, different ethnicities, different mentalities. I can honestly say some of the kids, even though I went to a Seventh-day Adventist school growing up for a couple of years, some of the kids I went even to that Seventh-day Adventist school had different mentalities than I did because, excuse me, say my mother was strict about me watching anything worldly from sundown Friday night to sundown Saturday night, where my same friends that I went to choir practice with up until 18 years old, their moms let them watch Saturday morning cartoons whenever they didn't come to church. It's the experience.
Can I just say a follow-up, and if that's okay? And Veronica, I want to say that this is wonderful that we're creating a space that you guys have created a space, and Q, that you're helping to create that with your story of like recognizing the true, again, experiences, like you're saying, Q, of individuals. And I don't know, is that a regular thing? Because this is just my experience, and that's actually why I left the service or working in services around homelessness, was because as a white woman of privilege, it was like, it didn't work. It did not work. You know, I was not able to connect in the way that was needed. For the young people I was working with was Tay, ages 18 to 24, and 90% were people of color. Like, it just wasn't, I could not connect on that level, right? And I'm not saying it has to be that way, but I'm just saying, like, and then I would go to these meetings, like City of Berkeley meetings, and it was mostly white people around the table, you know, like having these conversations. And I guess for me, again, maybe this is the regular format, do we create a space for the stories? Because remembering the individuals, like you're saying, the humans that are being impacted by the decisions that are made in these kind of meetings is really recognizing their stories and having a space for that, which I think is great. So maybe this is the norm, which is awesome.
Thank you, Rachel. In the interest of time, do we have any other questions for Q?
Go for it.
Not a question.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Was someone else
ahead,
speaking?
Diane.
Okay. This isn't a question, but I really echo Rachel's sentiments around this committee really being open to connecting with people's lived experiences as opposed to, you know, solely intellectualizing and discussing and planning and all of that. I think it's really important for us as a committee dedicated to meeting the needs of the unhoused to engage personally with this community in meaningful ways. Because I think we have to remain sensitive to these needs and not separate from, as if it is some other community. So I appreciate Rachel's input, and I second them. I resonate with what she said. So I do Q for the time you took and for your presentation, and I hope that the committee members will take our sentiments to heart.
Grace? Oh, Megan
Go.
first. Megan, what's going on, Megan?
I just wanted to thank you, Q. This was a really hard format to share your story through Zoom. It's all awkward, and I just really appreciate you sharing that with us, even though you're really sleep deprived. And just thank you. Thank you for that.
No, Megan, thank you. It's more than sleep deprived. Unfortunately, it's emotional deprived at the same time. We all work in some way or form or fashion of the mental field, so we know what manic can get, and unfortunately, I'm trying to do my best to like. I internalize a lot of things, so that everybody doesn't always not only see it, but best way I can actually put it is something my family said when and drilled into me when I was younger. And if you notice, I really didn't care about what they said today. Never let anybody see you cry. And in that fashion, it wasn't just anybody out in the streets. It was actually, I hate to say it this way, but it's the honest truth. It was more of Caucasians. Never let the white man see you cry. Never let them see you get down because of that systemic thing that everything is being talked about in today's day and age and today's society. But that's what I'm really starting to realize is we have to break it down. We have to destroy it. Because even in myself, that's why I sat at the table and started speaking up. Yes, I haven't spoken up as much as I need to sometimes. And I'm trying to slowly change that. But at the same time, it needs to happen. Wynn, you had something that you was wanted to ask?
I just wanted to thank you. I honor you. And you remind us that when we talk about 100 people or 200 people or 700 people, that there's 700 individual people and stories. And I have deep respect for you and thank you for being courageous and putting your heart and your story out there.
Grace is being very kind and polite, waiting her turn.
Sorry, I apologize about that, Grace.
No worries. It wasn't a question. And everyone's kind of already said it, but thank you for your perspective. I think it's really important for us to listen and understand. And it's really brave of you, Q. So thank you for sharing with us. I'm glad to share this space with you.
I appreciate that, everybody. One of the things that I am going to steal for a second. I know, Veronica, we're over time. Just bear with me. I apologize. One of the things that I do, my suggestion, heavy suggestion, we're doing HMIS. Everybody needs to buy in. One of the reasons why I think that is key and adamant about is for us to share our resources, because by the time everything is said and done, some of the resources that RCS can handle,
Every organization can handle different amounts.
Exactly. And the things that I need juggled, like say in my own personal treatment, I know personally I'm going through 2 therapists and I need a third. For one simple reason is, unfortunately, I can't talk about certain things with certain therapists certain ways because one, they're, lack of a better term, they're white. And there are certain things that somebody of color will understand that I'm sorry that somebody who isn't of color will not understand. Another thing is, like, say, for instance, finding those therapists for those people who say, for instance, a lot of people are on the streets are gay, or questioning LGBTQ. That demographic, oh God, it's frustrating when you know a couple of people out in the streets, between 13, 15 and beyond, in that underage age group that's going to sites that are for adults. And because there's not a place for them to go, because we haven't created it or created a safe space, because there's not enough buy-in to like focus in other places as well. It's that drawback of like, okay, if we have all the buy-ins that like allow us to proceed in finding that rhythm, so that we can, lack of better
I'm fucking
term.
over it. There's no audio.
Keith, you're not muted. Could you mute your phone, please?
Right. Yeah, it's with that, and that includes, I believe in Shannon. I applaud that you're here with us. I bless you, and I'm grateful that you are. But in my opinion, that buy-in even includes in our law enforcement. This is Mendocino County, not just Ukiah's Ukiah PD. In my opinion, everybody needs to be sitting at the table so that we can have we can hash out the best practices of, like, say, for instance, somebody who's going through mental disability, and rather than a police unit fully going out, it may be a counselor with a social work and a police escort who's being trained in social work, so that, like, it can be more of a de-escalation scenario. And if police presence is needed in order to do it, they can be called out. That's me personally.
I think we've ran out of time, but we are more than open to continuing this conversation. I think that this type of dialogue is really important, but I think right now we've got to wrap it up. And we're going to go ahead and turn it back over to Dan. Thank you so much, Q. This has been wonderful.
Not a problem. And everybody, if you, like I said, if you ever want to discuss or know fully my story rather than just like the tidbits of, and what, especially when I'm not as emotional as I am now, feel free. I have no problems of telling who I am to anybody, because it helps, especially in what I'm trying to accomplish here in the COC. It helps everybody understand that there are multiple different facets of that is needed and understand in this community and in the COC itself.
Thanks, Q.
Thank you, Q.
Not a problem.
We're going to go into the elections now. We're going to do each one of these separately. So let's start with A.
Okay. Formerly homeless or formerly homeless, transitional age youth. We have a nomination for Luz Martinez by Amanda Archer. Do we need a motion or do we just vote on that nomination? Chairs, do we know?
Can I make a proposal? I know I'm not on the board, but we've done this in the past where we present the slate and then a board member has made a motion to approve the slate. So rather than each individual, I don't know if it's possible to do that, but.
We got in trouble for that last time. We have to do it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, county council said we have to do this one at a time, and I'm sorry, it does take time, but I think we have to follow that rule.
Okay, I forgot about that. Sorry, thank you.
And we have 20 minutes left in our meeting, so if someone could make a nomination quickly, that would be appreciated.
Veronica, I believe since the nominations were already made, each candidate was already nominated, I believe you can just do a roll call vote.
Yeah, we just have to do a roll call vote for each one.
Yeah.
All right.
This would be a good time for everybody to take their phone off mute so you can just answer quickly.
So by roll call vote, yes, no, or abstain for Luz Martinez for the homeless or formerly homeless Tay seat. Roseanne.
Yes.
Lisa Judd has joined us.
Yes.
Jackie.
Yes.
Wind.
Yes.
Grace.
Yes.
Carla.
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
Amanda.
I'm just going to ask, is it appropriate for me to say yes or should
Yes,
I really?
You nominated her. It would be weird if you didn't vote for her.
Well, I wasn't sure if I needed to abstain, if it was a conflict.
No.
So
Okay. Judy.
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Sean.
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
Hugh,
Abstain.
Blythe.
Yes, but I don't know if I'm a board member anymore.
This isn't a board vote. This is a general member vote. I
Okay,
just
so
called you
yes,
the board.
absolutely. I support Luce.
Okay, Camille?
I'll answer for her, yes.
Okay, we'll call Sage then. Luz, you gonna vote for yourself?
Here's a result from the web.
Amanda, do we hear from Luz?
It's right here.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the question? Were you asking her?
Yes, she needs to vote. I'm asking her yes, no, or abstain. She's in
You could abstain because.
for your vote, for your position on the board.
Yes. Or
Yes.
Yes.
Good job. Okay, Sarah. Oh, are you here, Sarah? Sarah McCormick? Okay, I'm moving on. Zenya. Zenya? Are you still with us? Okay, moving on. We don't get a vote. And last one is Diane. Diane Durham? Diane, are you? I think she may have left.
It's gone.
Okay. I'm sorry, I missed that. But we have 16 out of necessary for the 14. That's a yes. Luz is in. Motion passed.
Yay, Luz. Woohoo!
Okay.
Veronica.
Say that again, Dan, sorry.
On to Redwood Community Services for Inland Shelter.
Yes. Shelter representative Inland North. We have the only nomination is for Redwood Community Services. So by roll call vote, yes, no, or abstain when I call your name. Roseanne.
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Jackie.
Yes.
Wind.
Yes.
Grace.
Yes.
Carla.
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
Amanda.
Yes.
Judy.
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Sean.
Yep.
Rachel.
Yes.
Sandra.
Yes.
Hugh.
C.
Blythe.
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
Yes,
sorry.
no.
Camille stepped away and then she's, anyway, confused.
Okay, so Camille's back. Okay. And Luz. Yes, no, or abstain.
Yes.
Zenya.
Abstain. I had to step out for a moment.
Okay, it's for RCS, but that's okay. And Diane has left, so 17 out of 14, that's it. Motion passes. Next one is organization serving the needs of families with children. Our only nomination is Mendocino County Office of Education. When I call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain. Roseanne.
Yes.
Lisa Judd.
Yes.
Jackie.
Yes.
Wind. Grace,
Yes.
Carla,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Sean.
Yes, and I'm sorry I have to go.
Okay, thank you, John. Rachel,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
and Q. For MCOE.
Yes.
Was that a yes, Q?
Yes.
Okay. Blythe. Blythe. Oh, you muted, but I saw you. Camille.
Yes.
Luz with Amanda.
Yes.
Thank you. Xenia.
Yes.
18 yeses, motion passed. And the last one, organization providing healthcare services to the homeless. Mendocino Community Health Clinics is the only organization nominated. When I call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain. Roseanne.
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Jackie.
Yes.
Wind.
Yes.
Grace.
Yes.
Carla.
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
Amanda.
Yes.
What does Lou say?
Yes.
Judy out. Judy.
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Sean left. Rachel.
Yes.
Sandra.
Yes.
Hugh.
Yep.
Scroll down. Blythe.
Yes.
Camille.
Yes.
And Xenia.
Abstain.
You can abstain from your own vote? Okay. We have
Right?
6.
You shouldn't vote for yourself.
Yes, you're allowed to vote for yourself.
Yes.
Oh, sure. Count me in.
Okay.
We love you, Xenia.
17 yeses. That carries. That's our quorum. So motion passes. The slate has been filled.
Thank
All
you.
our
Veronica.
boards.
We're now
Welcome.
going to funding reports, and there's no update for the cash funding. And Veronica, do
Correct.
you want to go over the ESG funding from the committee meeting, please?
Yes, I'm going to scroll down in your presentation to the page I want to present to you. One more. Okay. So this is my staff report regarding the 2020 Emergency Solutions Grant funding recommendations. The COC ad hoc meeting committee met for the non-competitive allocation. For the rapid rehousing component, we had 2 applications. Both are being recommended for funding. Redwood Community Services scored 98, and their requested amount is $58,655. And then Mendocino Coast Hospitality Center received a score of 100 out of 100, $58,645.
Send her a copy.
Is there something somebody wanted to add? There's some background noise. Maybe not.
In the box for Tabitha to sign.
Okay, I'm gonna ignore it. Competitive allocation, we received 2 competitive applications, one from RCS and one from Mendocino Coast Hospitality Center. RCS was scored at 97 and Mendocino Coast Hospitality Center was scored at 92. RCS is requesting 200,000. Hospitality Center is requesting 150,000. Their applications are slightly different, but both applications are being recommended to this board to be sent to the to ESG submitted to request for funding. I misunderstood the competitive allocation. I'm going to call on Sage, who has a much better understanding of how the competitive allocation works at HCD. Do you mind clarifying, like 2 minutes?
Yes, I can do a quick spiel because it took me a couple years to figure it out. There is a certain amount of money that is allocated to each COC within the continuum, each COC within the state based on their point in time count. That money, the COC is required to split into 2 buckets, one non-competitive and one competitive. Our COC decides to put half of our ESG funds into a non-competitive bucket that goes towards rapid rehousing. And that's what you're seeing on there is the non-competitive allocation. That money is guaranteed for our county, and the COC can recommend up to 2 applicants for those funds. And they're guaranteed for our county. The other half, the competitive bucket, is put into a joint the competitive bucket of funds from the Mendocino County COC, Lake County, Humboldt, Del Norte, and a couple other COCs that are in our COC jurisdiction. And each COC can recommend up to 2 applicants to apply for those competitive funds. Not all COCs apply for, or like have an applicant or have a project that fit within those funds. And so even though our COC may only be contributing $119,000 roughly to the competitive bucket, we can apply for up to $200,000 per applicant and have a chance of accessing those competitive funds. Does that make sense?
So they're not competing against each other, they're competing against the entire balance of state.
Well, not the entire balance of state. We're competing against each other, but also against applicants from Del Norte, Humboldt, Lake County, and
that's right.
What's the other one? Trinity. Anyway, there were like 8 COCs who all of their competitive funds go into a bucket for our region.
Right.
So that's why we could possibly have 2 competitive applications funded, which is not what I understood before, and Sage helped me understand that. So this is for the board only to vote on, and what's being presented to you right now and being requested is to accept the rating and ranking as described in this staff report. Probably need a motion. So anybody want to do a motion to accept these as presented? Or, yeah.
Motion to present as accepted.
Second for the motion?
I second.
Is there any discussion? There's no discussion, we need a roll call.
When I call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain. Roseanne.
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Jackie.
Yes.
Wind.
Yes.
Grace.
Yes.
Carla, I think you have to abstain.
Yes, I have to abstain. Abstain.
Thank you. Karen.
Yes.
Amanda.
Yes.
Judy.
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Sean left. Rachel. What? No, Sean. Rachel.
Yes.
Sandra.
Yes.
Blythe.
Yes.
Camille.
Abstain.
Thank you. Luz.
Yes.
Zenya. Are you still with us, Zenya? I know you're on here.
Okay, I'm putting you down as abstain because we can't hear you, Xenia. And Q.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay.
The second agenda item presented to you is to approve the resolution number, oh, sorry, that's an extra 0 in there. It's supposed to be 2020-02. I'll make that correction on what is the document that gets submitted. Sorry about that. We'll have to include that in the motion. But this is the standard ESG resolution that they need us to complete. It's for $234,618. That's the max. I'm not sure if that amount is going to be enough. So I'd like to, in discussion, talk about that with the board, but it's to accept an amount. And it's got the issue date for the NOFA, which is February 28th. And I've got today's date. So it's basically, it's just a certification that you guys do accept this and that it's to include with the grant application.
So Veronica, so this is really where we are approving the resolution. And the comment you made about the money amount in the approval, uncertain about the amount. So what's the uncertainty, or how should we handle that part?
I can get a message to her.
So the amount listed here is what the NOFA lists the allocation or the amount for Mendocino County. Okay. But now that I understand Sage's point that we could have 2 competitive applications funded, if they were both funded, that would be $350,000 if those both requests were honored. And that wouldn't, this number isn't enough for that. So in other resolutions that were created, HCD recommends that you make the amount larger than what, like at least double what you anticipate receiving. So I'm thinking maybe we need to strike this extra 0 and make this number bigger.
Right. So it's like a not to exceed number.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the language there is specific to the non-competitive though, and then the line below it talks about the competitive. Wouldn't the competitive be the one that would have the vague unspecified depending on award?
Yes.
Yes.
So maybe it's okay as is.
Yeah, maybe.
Thank you. I needed help with
okay as is.
Okay, good.
But can I ask, the state sometimes gives instructions about how to word this. Do they have a specific, like you have to put the amount that we're applying for competitive and for non-competitive?
Hold on.
No, I don't believe so. I think we're good.
Okay. The worst thing that will happen is that the state will send it back to the COC to make an amendment. That's all.
Yeah. I think it's probably ready for a motion.
Yeah, we need a motion.
I think we just went through that, didn't we?
No, not for this one.
I'm ready ranking, not for the resolution.
Oh.
You need a motion to move the resolution forward. Right?
I didn't know. Sorry.
I motion to move the resolution forward.
Second.
Any discussion for that? Roll call, Veronica.
When I call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain. Roseanne.
Yes.
Lisa. Lisa? I'm gonna put her down as abstain. Jackie?
Yes.
Wind?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Carla?
Do I have to abstain?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. Abstain.
Karen?
Approve, yes.
Amanda? Amanda?
I think she's gone.
Okay. Judy? You still with us, Judy?
It seems to be an empty room.
She's not there.
Okay. Dan?
Yes.
Sean is gone. Rachel?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
Blythe?
Yes.
Camille?
It's Sage in her stead because she stepped out, abstain.
Luz is abstained. Xenia?
Yes.
And Q? 11 yeses, minimum needed. My quorum has changed. Hold on. We have 17 seats filled now. So we have to have at least 9 yeses. We have 11 yeses. Motion approved.
Yay.
Thank you. Megan, do you want to go over the next ESG CARES funding item?
Yes. So I wanted to let everybody know, I misunderstood something whenever I gave my presentation in the May 18th COC meeting. The ESG CARES Act, NOFA, that HCD has issued, that's the State Department that the state of California has identified to deal with this funding. Their NOFA outlines what they call a provider selection process. Normally, what we have is what we just did. The normal grant, we do an RFP, we accept the grants, we rate and rank them. The COC makes a recommendation to HCD. HCD then does their own stuff, and then it gets funded. This funding they're dealing with completely differently, and it took me a little while to wrap my brain around it. In this, the the provider selection process in the NOFA reads, grantees are responsible for awarding ESG CV funds to eligible service providers for ESG CV eligible activities in their approved COC service area. So what that one little statement that didn't really resonate with me at first says, the grantee, who in this case is the administrative entity that the COC has identified, which is HHSA, the County of Mendocino, that is the grantee. The person that the COC has identified to receive the funds, which is Mendocino County HHSA, is responsible for awarding the funds. There are certain conditions of that. It includes collaborating with the local COC, and we've brainstormed a process to make sure that we do that. But I wanted this board to understand that the decision-making process regarding the CV funds is way different than what our normal ESG process is. The COC, there's nothing about anyone rating or ranking funds. It's all about who needs it and let's get it out. And that's my update.
I have questions. Let me know when we can ask questions.
Go ahead, Sage.
Okay, when you say it's all about who needs it and let's get it out, where are the decisions for that coming from?
I think, Sage, that's exactly the point that Veronica is bringing up. This is a very different process than the normal ESG or any of the other funding sources we've had before. It's very awkward because the person who is the grantee for these funds is the county, and there's no requirement that we follow any kind of process in deciding how those funds are spent, except for to consult with the COC. So it leaves this in a situation we haven't before handled. And that's why we're, Veronica's making sure that we highlight this right now. I think it's important to note this is at least $700,000. It's $700,000 in the first allocation, and it looks like there'll be future allocations as well. So it's not an insubstantial amount of money.
And we don't know what the second NOFA is going to look like. This only applies to the first round of funds, what I'm talking about now.
This is Jackie with a question or clarification. Remember when we got the funding and the COC got a portion and the COVID funding, and then the county, this is kind of like that, right?
No, I think it's sort of more in between. This is an allocation that is going to the county, but it's designated. It's not county. It's really strange. It's awarded to the COC, and the COC is the person that the feds identify with. But the funds go to the county, and there's no restrictions on how the county can decide how that money is spent, with the exception of consulting with the COC.
Okay. And making sure that it's a clear and open process that avoids conflict of interest, follows normal procurement requirements, evaluates provider capacity experience, evaluates eligibility and quality of services, utilizes data, and considers community input to identify unmet needs, prioritizes activities that address the unmet needs, consider project level performance measures when evaluating proposals, and collaborates with the local COC. So there are restrictions on how there's requirements on how the decisions have to be made. It's just a lot looser than we're used to.
So unlike ESG funds in the past that that would bypass the county and go directly to the grantee, this is actually going to go to the county as the administrative entity. Like the actual money will go to the county, unlike ESG, which had always bypassed us and gone directly to the grantees.
Does that mean the Board of Supervisors makes that decision?
Well, I think that's what's awkward about this. I don't think the Board of Supervisors are fully aware of this yet. And I think that what we're going to be relying on is good faith collaboration amongst all of us, like solely good faith collaboration amongst all of us, because no one's exactly telling us what to do. So it's just a different kind of scenario than we've encountered before. I think that in the past, Veronica and I'd be able to say, this money is controlled by the COC, this money is controlled by the county. We don't actually get to say that in either case here. It's sort of in the middle.
Yeah.
Would it be to our benefit, this is Karen Lovato, would it be to our benefit for the COC, we as the COC, to just take a look at some of the decisions and the information that we've processed in the past and make a prioritization or a guideline that we'd like to see, so that there is, I know that takes some work, but that would give something a little bit more formal to this good faith process that could easily be misinterpreted, especially right now with everything being distance and Zoom and fast turnaround times.
Yeah, we're going to do that actually in the strategic planning meeting that's coming up. And then we're going to bring that back hopefully to the July COC full board meeting. Karen?
Karen, I was
That
thinking
sounds great.
I think your prioritization comment is really key there. And I think we're now able to build like the investment proposal that corresponds with the strategic plan based on what we perceive the need is. So I think all that work that's happened is we're going to be able to build on it when we make our case or recommendation.
I think Jackie's absolutely right. We're really lucky that we just finished our strategic plan, because we do have a guiding document that's fairly fresh. Some of the priorities and the timeline that we may have thought we were putting in place with with strategic plan may have changed because of COVID, like things that we thought we were going to do in year 3, we may suddenly realize we need to do year 1. And it's some of the timeline may change, but we do have this guiding document. And I feel like that document coupled with the ESG funds can't be used for absolutely anything. They do have, you know, it's essentially for emergency shelter, but there's street outreach in there, and Veronica, if I'm wrong, there's a couple things, but it's mostly emergency shelter, rapid rehousing, street outreach. There might be one other thing or something. So there's only a small handful of things this funds can be spent on, but aligning it with our strategic plan and recognizing the needs that we have right now, I think is something the strategic planning committee is ready to do and make that recommendation to the administrative entity and to the COC board.
That makes sense. That totally makes sense.
So that's when that meeting's we'll send that meeting invite out sometime next week.
You know, in preparation for that meeting, Dan, I think it would be good if we looked at how we've spent ESG dollars in the last couple rounds, because I think there is a bit of a you know, what we've been doing.
Yeah.
Especially for some of the new members of the board.
Okay. So Megan, we want to go on to the heat project for Fort Bragg. I know you had an update on that.
Yes, I do. So if you remember a couple months, I don't think it was last month, but the month before, the board agreed to contract with a consultant. His name is Craig Melsner, to look at this project and look at the request from the city of Fort Bragg to shift funding to buying the land. And the direction from the board was to contract with this knowledgeable man to help us understand whether that was a good idea or what kind of pitfalls we might be finding. We have made some progress with him. He has reviewed the project. He's spoken with the city of Fort Bragg. He spoke at length with me. And it looks like purchasing the land is not a good choice. It's riskier than we had realized and might not work very well in terms of meeting the explicit objective of the HEAP funds, which need to be funds that are used for people experiencing homelessness. The Fort Bragg project overall includes 20 units of permanent supportive housing for people experiencing homelessness, but there's no way to guarantee that the remaining units or the use of the land, the remaining land, would be for people experiencing homelessness. It's low-income housing. One is for low-income home ownership, but it wouldn't necessarily be people experiencing homelessness. So I'm working with Mr. Meltzner to find a different way to allocate those funds. And I think what it will require is, I know it will require a no cost and amendment to the contract to more specifically delineate that the HEAP project funds will not exceed 30% of the total project costs. And we think we have found a mechanism in order to distribute that money as quickly as possible through specifying that the HEAP funds are for 30% of all the pre-development costs. It can be 30% of the land as well, but a proportional amount of the project, so the HEAP costs would be a proportion to the total amount of the project. I can't explain it very well, but in any case, so the update is,
it would be proportioned to the number of units there. So if they're getting 20 out of 60.
Right, that's right.
Right.
So it cannot exceed that. It's a $27 million project, which is like a lot. So it's not going to exceed 30% of 27 million, but I have to make it clear that the HEAP funds will not exceed 30% of the project costs. And so I'm just letting you know that that's in the works. If I really get it together, I might have the amendment by the July 20th meeting. I'm kind of skeptical that I will. So I'm trying to get that done as efficiently as I can in the environment that we're in. Another note is that the consultant that we selected was not comfortable having the city of Fort Bragg pay for his contract because he felt like his client was the COC. Totally understandable. He's totally right. So I just took the liberty of paying for his contract through the administrative funds. So there's an administrative portion of HEAP that the county is retaining. It's really small, but I'm just going to use it up on this contract with Mr. Melsner, and I'm leaving the contract broad enough that if we need his assistance in future projects, we could be able to do that, or future HEAP contracts. So that's kind of how I left it. I hope that's okay with you all. I'm just trying to make this work and get these funds spent as soon as possible. The state is very clear that they will take money back that is not spent by June of 2021. So I don't want to blow this, and I know you don't want to blow this either. So I'm trying to make it happen. But purchasing the land outright did not appear to be a good idea.
Thanks, Megan. So I briefly touched on item B earlier in the meeting about the unencumbered heap funds, which is basically the interest off of the money that's sitting there. Depending on what FEMA does on expanding the hotel program, leadership may bring this back to the board to use that heap interest, which is about $40-some thousand, to help cover any additional gap funding that may not be fundable under other programs. At this point, we don't know what that is, but that would be a qualified heap expense. So really nothing but more than just a little update on there that we will touch on in the next meeting in July.
Yeah, I would like to ask that the unencumbered heap funds is probably closer to 50,000 now. And I would ask that if the strategic planning committee is meeting to make suggestions about how to spend money in support of the strategic plan, if they also do have some suggestions for that funding, if it's not needed for bridge funding, we also need to spend that money by June 2021 as well. So in any avenue, it would be helpful for us to make sure that there's a vision for that money, probably within the next month, 2 months. It would be nice to know what that vision is.
We'll add that to the agenda item.
I think that would be helpful.
Moving on from there, I do not see any other updates except for number 8, Veronica.
I just wanted to update and put in the minutes officially that the COVID-19 emergency funding that was allocated to the COC has been fully exhausted.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other projects anybody want to discuss? Okay, any announcements from anybody?
Pick me.
Jackie?
You've all heard me whine about this, so now celebrate with me. July 1st, treatment facility services through Drug Medi-Cal are offered at the Ukiah Recovery Center. So we have been working on this for 4 years, and people who want residential treatment that have no ability to pay and qualify through Drug Medi-Cal eligibility standards now will be able to call Beacon and get pre-approved and referred for services.
That is awesome. Congratulations.
That is so amazing. Yay.
Clover and her team needs buttons that say persistent.
That's incredible. I just wanted to say
so
sorry.
great, Jack.
Keith says he's sorry. He was having technological issues when he chimed in and didn't realize he was logged in. So apologies from our end on that.
No problem. Any other announcements? Okay, if there's no other announcements, the next meeting is going to be July 20th from 1:30 to 3:30.
I'm now going to switch over. I'm going to log out and log in, but we're having the new membership invitation and orientation next if anyone wants to join us.
Thank you,
everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.